Hey there, my fellow Helldivers. I want to take a little bit of time and do something different. Kind of wanted to have a free form chat with you about the new Warbond announcement, Masters of Ceremony, that was announced this morning. So, by the way, if you're looking for concise, quick content, as I normally do, this is not for you. If you're doom scrolling, continue on. Hopefully I'll see you in the next video. But if you just kind of want to hear me ramble a little bit, I'd be thrilled to have you here. So, this Warbond, if you haven't seen already, has gotten some pretty mixed reviews. And this happens every now and then with Warbonds and with content that Arrowhead produces for Helldivers 2. This certainly is not the first time that we've gotten something this controversial. And I have a theory that I wanted to run past you all. So, look, when Helldivers 2 first came out over a year ago, the slapstick nature of it was one of its largest appeals, right? I mean, this dystopian fascist government that's under a thin veneer of freedom, espousing, liberty and managed democracy, which, by the way, I think is a Soviet term. But we're being thrown out, equipped with whatever we can kind of get our hands on, jokingly, very little training. And we're thrown into the midst of it with us and 3 other squad mates. And, I mean, we die half as often to the enemy than we do to allies, right? That's kind of the shtick. That's the fun nature of the game. At some point, though, that wore thin. Either that wore thin or the audience changed, where that really wasn't the main appeal. I mean, I experienced this myself when I first started playing, literally on launch day, whenever the servers were available for us to play. I mean, we were having a blast. It was fun. I'd call in an orbital strike and my friend's torso would fly to the orbit because I accidentally hit him, and we'd laugh, and it was hilarious, right? But, over the months, I think that gets tired. That there's only so much you can milk from that. And then now you kind of want to experience the game as, a skill ceiling game, something that you want to challenge yourself with. You kind of ramp up the difficulty, you tweak your loadouts, and it becomes kind of a little bit more of a twitch shooter. I mean, dare I say a little sweatier, but it's still really fun because it has depth to it. There is gameplay depth in the core loop to explore and have some fun with. So I would say that either the audience evolved from the fun nature of the slapstick, feel of the game, or, new people started coming in. The audience, for whatever reason, either the audience changed or the audience taste changed. And, on several of the conversations that I've had with Shams Jurjani, the CEO of Arrowhead, on the official Discord, there's already been several mentions, there's been several, comments that he's made that, the developers obviously have to have fun developing the game. Obviously, no one's disputing that. But what it seems to be is that the fun that developers had is true to where the game started, this kind of slapstick, right? The funny aspect. The reason why when someone say, hey, why do we have friendly fire in this game? The response from the dev is because we think it's funny. And it is. So that's the game the devs want to do. And I think that the reason that we have this push and pull between the audience and the devs sometimes when maybe a content release seems to miss expectations from, some of the audience, one dare say perhaps a larger part of the audience, is because we're kind of in this tug of war, right? There's a game they want to create, and there's a game that other people want to experience. And I have a feeling that since this has happened, the game has sort of been caught in the middle, right? So remember Escalation of Freedom, for those of you that were around, that was a pretty famous moment in Helldivers 2. There's a Warbond, I think, that was released, and, a lot of weapons got nerfed because, again, the priority wasn't in defeating enemies, this being a power fantasy and you're taking on 10 million bugs and bots all at once and everything. That really wasn't the priority. It was just about being cannon fodder, just being lambs to the slaughter almost, and kind of having fun with it being that tongue-in-cheek. And of course, that went down like, a bunch of bricks. That didn't go very well. And Pilostet, who was a CEO at the time, said, okay, hey, we're going to have I think he was CEO at the time. We're going to have a 60-day plan, and we're going to right the ship. And then, after 60 days, there was a sweeping buffs, and there's been buffs ever since that. So, I that's where I think the tension is. That's where I think the game keeps getting caught in between, right? I don't want to say the seriousness, but the kind of hardcore shooter aspect with a lot of people want, and the fact that the devs want to create a game where we have a World War I themed warbond, or we have a warbond where we're strapping freaking, mini nuclear bombs to our back, right? I mean, it's meant to be really offhanded. It's like making light that there is no sanctity of life. That's the shtick of the game, and I think that's what the devs really want to do. So that's my theory. And look, let me be absolutely clear. It's not like I'm over the moon for this warbond. As someone who has made, almost or over 100 loadout videos, as far as the crunch goes, the weapons and the boosters and stuff like that, there's probably nothing that I'm going to use here, right? All the crunch, the marksman rifle is, the category itself kind of really lacks and suffers in this game. The grenade might be interesting, probably not. The saber, is that going to be any different than the combat hatchet? The armor passive, where, I don't know, is that going to be any different really than servo assisted, which also helps with limb damage? So as far as the crunch goes, nothing here looks appealing. So when I get the warbond, it's really going to be for drip, which is really what I think this was meant to be for. Now, it's fair, in my opinion, it's fair to throw a little bit of criticism to Arrowhead, assuming that this is going to be yet another $10, 1,000 super credit priced warbond. Warbonds are getting smaller. The content, at least now for the wider audience, doesn't seem to be as engaging. And I think it's a fair critique for those that are playing the game for that reason to just vote with their wallets and just not buy the warbond. That's totally fair. And, there's the other thing. As I've tried to mention on the official Reddit and on the video and elsewhere, I'll mention it again, that the famous comment that Shams mentioned when I was talking to him on the Discord of, you're going to blank your pants, when I asked him, can you give us some insight on what's coming down the pipeline? That did not relate to a warbond. The question that I asked was very open-ended. It's like, hey, when it comes, generally speaking, of what is in development, can you give us something to get excited about? And that's when he had that now infamous response. So those of you, it was crazy this morning on the Discord. I was there at 5 in the morning, and it was just absolute chaos. People were just, oh my God, this is going to be the warbond. They're all going to crap our pants. Everyone's going nuts. And I was trying to say, no, that's not this. I don't know where you guys are getting that from. So that's something else. So anyways, I'd love to hear your thoughts. And one more quick thing for the very few people that listen this far. I do have a video that I posted this morning, literally minutes after the warbond was announced, where I went item by item and kind of gave a description of what it does and my thoughts. I don't know why TikTok is just randomly suppressing some of my videos. If you want to watch it, it's there. Anyways, as I said, love to hear your thoughts. And until then, happy dining, y'all.